Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Happy Monday night. It's a Monday night just before Thanksgiving. Hopefully you all are home and safe and getting ready for the first of the major winter holidays, I suppose. But in that you are home and unfortunately most of us are not traveling anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're staying home where it's nice and safe. And yeah, I really wish I was, heading to Atlanta to spend the holidays with my mom and my siblings and their respective families. But if you're watching the news today, we're hitting record highs in terms of COVID, positive testing, deaths here in this country, and it's impacting every sector of American life. It's impacting every sector of global existence, all of our lives. All 8 billion of us are enduring the same pandemic, the same moment in time. And so tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about how that's impacted our HBCUs. Our historically Black colleges and universities have endured a major, major hit as a result of this pandemic. And certainly, as all universities have, we've seen it through the news that enrollment is taking a hit, and schools are not playing sports right now, and that's incredibly important because the revenue from football and basketball and merchandise and ticket sales, all that impacts the bottom line of every college and university. And when you look at small schools, private schools, and schools that historically have always had to fight tooth and nail for every single cent that they've earned or have been bestowed. This pandemic has definitely impacted those institutions directly. So tonight, I'm going to talk to some financial leaders from various schools from various parts of the country who will share their wisdom on how to navigate this pandemic, how they have navigated this pandemic, and what we have to look forward to coming in 2021. We're going to take a short break and get ourselves settled. I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Cynthia Carter-Horn, Dr. Belinda Collins, and Mr. Sidney Evans, 3 amazing administrators at their respective schools, and they're going to share their wisdom with us on how to endure this time financially. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm thrilled to have our guests with us tonight. I'm just going to read their bios to you and introduce them. And as we bring them up, you have the opportunity yourself, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can post your questions or comments there at the video, and we will ask our guests those questions or relay those comments to them as well. So we want you to participate. We know that we have members from the Whitlow R. Green College of Education watching tonight. And so please, Dr. Hoffman-Miller and Dr. Thomas Smith and Dr. Freeman and Dean Michael McFrazier, if you all will ask your questions and participate in this conversation tonight, we will welcome your questions. Tonight, we're talking to Dr. Belinda Collins. She has over 13 years in higher education experience, where she served in various responsibilities in finance and administration. She currently is the University Director of Financial Planning and Budget for Sam Houston State University here in Texas. She received her PhD in higher education leadership from the Prairie View A&M University, which is the same program I am in myself, and the program that's hosting this particular talk. So, you know, a fellow Panther PhDer is on the call tonight. I'm very excited about that. She also earned her MBA from the Texas Women's University and a Bachelor's of Business Administration and Finance from the University of Houston downtown. Dr. Collins has served as Chair of Administration and Leadership Development and Chair of Division of Post-Secondary Education of College Student Success for American Educational Research Association, or AERA. And she's met with legislators, both statewide and nationally. She's a champion for higher education finance, and I'm excited to have Dr. Collins with us tonight. We also have Dr. Cynthia Carter Horn. Now, Dr. Cynthia Carter Horn is Prairie View's CFO, Chief Financial Officer, and I'm thrilled to have her on tonight. She comes to us from Texas A&M. She comes to us from Tarleton State University, but she was also at Texas A&M, and she knows our system incredibly well. As you know, Prairie View is a part of the Texas A&M system. It's a huge system, responsible for, you know, a mammoth budget, and she has extensive experience just kind of leading both our school and other schools within our system financially. And then finally, we have Sidney Evans, and he is the VP of Finance and Management at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm excited about having a fellow DMVer here. I'm from Virginia, and having Mr. Evans on just gives me a little touch of home. You know, Baltimore's a little bit further up the road, but it just takes me back home and you know, have some blue crab soup about this time of year and that. But he is the financial leader at Morgan State. He's served as the Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer for Howard University before going over to Morgan State. So he's been within HBCU, just different HBCUs in various capacities over the years as well, and leads one of my favorite institutions. I love Morgan State. I just spent a lot of time on their campus, back in my college days, just kind of, cutting my teeth in Baltimore, traveling up to Baltimore and doing some interning up there. And so I appreciate you and all of our guests joining us tonight on this particular panel. How's everyone doing?
Doing great. Thank you.
Good. I want to just kind of check in with you all. I mean, we could just jump right into the money talk, but I really like to know how you all are doing as, citizens of planet Earth, aside from the work that you do, as people having to endure this pandemic. How are you all faring? Dr. Collins, why don't we start with you? How are you doing during this pandemic?
Well, I'm doing quite well. I'm probably the head that always projecting positivity. So whatever's going on, I try to stay positive. I try to project that to others, keep everyone calm. This won't last forever. It will pass through. We just got to be protected and protect others and wear our masks. So we're doing quite well. Thank you.
Good. Family's doing okay?
Family's doing well. So far, no one has gotten it. And our university, we test all staff, all students, and anyone in the community, and it's free of charge. And so we get tested like once a week.
Yeah. Excellent. Dr. Carter Horn, how are you faring during the pandemic?
Doing okay. I mean, trying to figure out that new normal is just, a daily challenge. I have family in Louisiana who's been impacted negatively by the pandemic. I've actually lost two family members and have two others that are in recovery now. So it hits home.
Yeah,
But my husband and I just try to lay low and stay in as much as possible and just do all those things to social distance to make sure we stay well.
absolutely. Absolutely. We have seen the signs all over Prairie View's campus, instructions on how to maintain social distance and the mask wearing, all that. So I'm really proud of the fact that we are part of an institution that at every turn, there's no shortage of signage and instruction on how to keep ourselves safe. And so that's outstanding. Mr. Evans, how are you faring during the pandemic? How are you and your family doing right now?
Well, quite frankly, we've been very, very fortunate to be able to endure this very difficult time that we're all facing. I too have had family members to pass on from this pandemic, and it really hits home. It has touched every member of my family, immediate and distant. But as my colleague said, I'm very optimistic for the future. This too shall pass. We just need to follow the science and be positive and do what it takes to get our country through this.
Yes, sir.
But
yeah.
we're very fortunate through these times.
Right. So let's go back to March, right? Let's go back to March. And, just before spring break, I'm certain all of you had different plans for your respective universities, right? You had an idea of how you're going to move through 2020 and, some initiatives, perhaps, some partnerships, perhaps. Walk me through how quickly those plans had to change for you. Did you have a contingency plan? What happened for you back during spring break? And how quickly did your plans have to shift?
Well, I know for me, I was at another campus prior to coming to Prairie View. I came to Prairie View in July. So in March, when the pandemic hit, I was at A&M Central Texas in Killeen, serving as the CFO there. And, it's a much smaller campus, upper level and graduate students. And so more of a mature student base. So we didn't have housing on campus, that type of thing. So it was a matter of, figuring out how to send employees to the house and work remotely. So that was the largest thing. And then trying to figure out, how do we proceed with making sure we have PPE and all of those things in place to make sure everyone's safe.
Yeah. And so on a dime, that had to be your focus immediately, and shifting from other plans or other activities that you had going on?
Right, because we were starting to work on the upcoming year budget. And so those things kind of got put on hold as far as, working with other student initiatives with student affairs. So all of those things had to come to a halt to be able to take care of this.
What was happening at Morgan State, Mr. Evans?
Well, first of all, once the pandemic just started taking a ripple effect through Baltimore, the state of Maryland, we were very concerned about our students. And the first thing our leadership team did was to make sure we could get our students home safely. We started spring break early, and we told our students, we will contact you when it's time to come back. Because the safety and welfare of the students was the number one concern. Our president immediately started having weekly extended cabinet meetings. An extended cabinet meeting includes about 55 individuals at Morgan State from across the 10 schools and colleges, directors, associate vice presidents, and we started having a dialogue on what should Morgan do in terms of getting students home, closing the campus, issuing refunds back to students. And we had to make sure, being a public university in the state of Maryland, we had to ensure that we were in compliance with the executive order from the governor of Maryland.
Mm.
So we moved very quickly to start our planning process, which, as I said, included getting the students off campus, getting refunds back to the students, getting faculty and staff to safe places. And then our largest challenge was how would we continue to educate our students?
Sure.
And we did that through putting in place a very comprehensive remote instructional modality.
Dr. Collins, what was happening at Sam Houston State University? I mean, you're part of a larger system also. I mean, you're part of the Texas State University system. So how did that particular system respond back in March?
And when we first heard the news, our president then immediately formed a committee. It was called our COVID-19 committee. And we said, which is more important? And again, it was the students. But we had a lot of international students on campus who could not travel, who could not go back home. And so we had to provide room and board for them free of charge, just so they could stay there because they couldn't return because there's no flight. We had to shut down all our flight travel. We shut down all expenses. Even instilled a budget reduction across campus-wide to have funding to help those students. We even provide food because our dining hall was closed. And so the students that were not able to go home stayed in the dorms, and we provide food, clothing for them, shelter for the ones. It was just nonstop because we didn't want to lose the students. We want to also keep them safe and important. So we also instill a superpower internet system. So they can be anywhere to get the internet to do their classes online. Instructors, we had all our instructors go through a course, certification course. So they can learn how to teach online and distant learning classes. So when we got that up and running, then we felt kind of okay. And then, of course, we got the CARES funding from the government, the Department of Education, which helped us out a lot with a lot of students. And then we told them, don't leave, you can come back. We're just going to have you online remotely. So that's what helped us out.
Yeah, that don't leave component is very important. I just read a report that the Wall Street Journal 3 weeks ago reported that nationally, universities have seen a 3% enrollment drop, whereas 10 to 15 was expected because, weren't certain if students want to come back to school, weren't certain if, going to a virtual format would be interesting enough for students to re-enroll and pay the tuition amount or the fees that came along with going to college, but not have the same experience of going to college. And then, of course, not being 10 to 15%, the loss was only 3%. But the big hit was in the auxiliary areas: bookstore, athletics, housing, meal plans. How are you repairing or replacing that income that would have come from those areas of campus life that are outside of tuition?
That's where the CARES Funding Act came into place. And we used that to refund those, reimburse those areas. They can continue and they won't be running in such a deficit.
Sure.
Got that on the book, as well as giving money to students so they can live and come back to the classroom, and not really for us in person, but online. And after the summer came through, then we started doing a modified in classroom. They had the option. You have the option to come in, or you can do it remotely, or you can do it hybrid. So we gave them that option. And Matter of fact, our online increased 3%, more than what it did last year. And so we felt like that part of it ensured we even issue our laptops to students. We didn't have them. We did everything we could to keep the students engaged and let them know we do care and we're going to protect. And we still, right now, give out free masks to all students who don't have it. Because we have a mask mandate on campus. You have to have a mask coming on campus.
Sure.
If you don't have one, go to the center. Each day you come in, we give you free mask. But that's how we handle it.
Yeah. How else? How are some of you, Dr. Horn, Dr. Carter Horn, Dr. Evans? How are you replacing what you're missing that you would have received by athletics, football season alone, for PV? I mean, that's a huge piece of the puzzle for us. I mean, how are you replacing what's now not in place?
So a lot of those things, are fee waivers that we had in place to cover the debt service associated with building some of these new facilities. We were able to use some of the CARES Act funding to make those units whole so that they could continue with operations. We did the same thing with the student rec center and all those type of operations. So it was a blessing to receive the CARES Act funding because that helped take care of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we too benefited from the CARES Act. And as you know, the CARES Act has several components. One component was designated for students. So we received those funds and disseminated those monies directly to our students. Secondly, there was a higher education CARES Act component. And we use that for to purchase PPE equipment, to invest in technology for remote instruction, and to ensure that we could upgrade our online instructional modalities. And then the third component was designated specifically for HBCUs. And that enabled us and other HBCUs to fund debt service and to replace a lot of the lost revenue from auxiliaries, and also to reimburse the institution for the refunds that most of all institutions provided back to students after they return home. I would say one of the most important things we did after we started these very copious planning sessions around the future, we did develop several budget scenarios. It was 4, in fact, and each budget scenario was based on a set of assumptions, everything from a 10% decline in enrollment to the need to make large capital investments for remote instruction. From those budget planning scenarios, we did implement a very detailed cost containment plan. And within that cost containment plan, we had a number of cost-saving measures, everything from hiring freeze to limited layoffs, salary reductions, energy conservation, reduction in contractual services, and just a very aggressive to slow spending to offset the lost revenue.
So we're not hemorrhaging cash in the sense, in the way that some small businesses are, or or is that a misconception? I mean, in my mind, I had this vision of the different schools because of the limited activities and the fact that there were so many. Even as a PhD student, I saw in my bill, a lot of things were rebated back to me because of typical fees that I would have to pay. But I do understand the importance of those fees in helping with the overall infrastructure of the university. I mean, yes, the CARES Act definitely picks up the tab and helps out with a lot of things. But I mean, do you see this as a ripple effect that could potentially eventually have larger implications financially for a university? I mean, how long do we have access to some of these, debt relieving solutions?
Well, I would just start by saying cash flow is real. And in any organization, cash is king or queen, depending on who you are talking to. And this pandemic has impacted cash flow for a number of institutions, large and small, public and private. But to truly answer your question, I think in higher education, we were already operating under a very soft business model. The operating margins for colleges and universities were already extremely tight. And the pandemic has exacerbated all our abilities to maintain that current business model. And I think it's very clear for all of us that for the future, we're going to have to improve and enhance our current business model.
You mentioned the CARES Act had an earmark for HBCUs. Talk to us a little bit about some of the unique issues or unique problems, or even the unique solutions that HBCU has endured during this pandemic that perhaps our PWI counterparts may not have considered.
Well, once again, I think historically Black colleges have a different business model from traditionally, predominantly traditionally white institutions. And that model is different primarily because tuition is discounted. If you look at tuition across the board on average at HBCUs, that tuition that is charged is lower than it would be at a comparable institution. So when you look at the business model, revenues are already heavily discounted from the very beginning when your expenses are at market levels. And because of the pond we fish in, the socioeconomic status forces all of us to discount our tuition. That's one of the true fundamental missions of HBCUs is about access and affordability.
Yeah.
Therefore, we are starting out in a negative situation by offering lower tuition. Now you bring a pandemic into the situation that has had a negative impact on our economy across the board. People have lost jobs. And this makes it even more difficult for individuals to afford a college education. So as a result, I think we're going to have to be a lot smarter and to really plan for the future with some innovations and to be able to enhance that business model that I talked about previously.
Do you think that could there be a shift in that model? One,
Absolutely.
as we've seen many
there
HBCUs.
will be a shift.
Yeah, I was going to say, look,
it's going to be a shift
increase.
in
We've
the
seen
model,
an increase.
and we're going to have to collectively look at new strategies for the future, everything from possible partnerships to shared services and to look at possible mergers, consolidations.
Yeah.
There will be, I think, a seismic shift in the paradigm for higher education going forward, and specifically for HBCUs.
Yeah. I mean, look at how many top-notch athletes are now starting to choose HBCUs. So from that one perspective, the profile of attending an HBCU, especially, impressionable young high school students who are looking at their athletic heroes going, well, I could go to Ohio State, I could go to Tennessee, or to, UT Austin or A&M or what have you, but I am going to go to Prairie View to play football, or I'm going to go to Hampton and play basketball, or I'm going to go. And so we see that one sector, but another thing that we're seeing, a different trend we're seeing, especially as a result of this pandemic, is how many, corporate partners are looking to HBCU because we're uncharted territory. There's so much new and innovative opportunities at our, HBCUs. I'm going to ask this quick question, then we're going to go to a commercial break. But what's the innovative outlook then as a result of COVID that our financial leaders have to look forward to during this time? Those partnerships, those growth opportunities. I mean, we're partnering at PV, we're partnering with Apple, and we have an opportunity with, HEB and different things. So what's the outlook for that at your respective schools?
Well, I know at Morgan, we are going to see more of that. In fact, Bank of America just announced a new program where Morgan was a beneficiary of a $1 million grant to help our students and to create diversity in the banking industry. And I think we're going to see more and more of those type activities, but you have to have a competitive product. And I think that's where the business model is going to be so ever important, because as we look at potential partnerships, whether they are in the private sector or with other institutions, other HBCUs or traditionally white institutions, we have to be able to demonstrate that we produce an excellent product in our students, that they are well trained, and that they have the right skills to be successful. And I think it's going to be very important for all of us to be able to strengthen our business model so we can make the appropriate investments to create that competitive spirit.
Right.
I mean, that's our view at Morgan.
What's our view at Sam Houston State University, Dr. Collins?
Well, our view at Sam Houston is, one is we partner with the medical industry. The medical industry is booming at the moment. And we open up a class in medicine. We have a dentistry program. And so that part is really booming for us. Our enrollment is increasing even during this pandemic. Everybody's running to try to get this program. And so that's what we're doing. Also, our communications. We have a Dan Rather communication program. Started that. And so now we got internships, kind of cater the students. So when they get done with school and they've done their internship, they can have a good job somewhere on the station. So that's, you're partnering with these type of organizations and like that, so the students can see their career beyond the education level. And that's what's getting us by right now, especially with the medical industry.
Yeah. And I've seen so much growth even in the last 3 months at Prairie View. Dr. Carter Horn, tell us what innovative things we have to look forward to at Prairie View as a result of being solution oriented during this time.
So the relationship, like you mentioned, with Apple, so that's been established. We also have some things with the Mellon Foundation. So we're doing a lot of things out in the community, but our STEM fields are taking off. So engineering, just doing all of those things to just be creative and trying to look at ways at our current agreements that we have in place for auxiliaries. I mean, are there better ways we could partner with Sodexo, or can we do better things with SSC, and can we do some things to be creative at our Northwest Houston Center? I think as we get ready to enter into this next biennium that's coming up, we're going to have to be more creative, looking at those community and corporate partnerships, and just be ready, because we know that we're probably going to take a beating this upcoming legislative session. And how can we offset that to be creative?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a short commercial break, very short, because I want to come back and talk to you about the power of our alumni, the importance of our alumni, as well as take a few questions from the audience. Already, we've got 2 or 3 questions that we're going to ask. I know they're going to, drive our conversation even deeper. So we're going to take a very short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit further with our esteemed guests in higher ed finance and how COVID has impacted our universities. Stay tuned.
At Prairie View,
even though there is so much against us,
you will see me choose to protect myself and my community from the coronavirus by wearing a face covering.
Because it's going to take all of us thinking about one another.
And even with my face covered, you will see me.
You will see me as a mother, a wife, a friend.
As an athlete who gave everything to the game I love.
As a father, leading by example.
As a sister.
An entertainer.
As a champion for my people.
You will see me finding a light in a dark time.
To unlock our creativity and push our craft.
You will see me demanding the space to tell the stories that matter.
As a man who knows that tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Join us in wearing a face covering to help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because covering your face is one small act of kindness that has the power to bring us together.
All right, so we're gonna talk about our alumni. We're gonna ask some questions about our alumni here in just a second, but we do have some questions. They're just rolling in right now from our audience that are watching. We're gonna start off with a question from Dr. Hoffman Miller. She asked, what types of leadership qualities are most important when leaders must respond to an immediate catastrophic crisis such as this pandemic, COVID-19? What are the qualities that a leader should possess to keep things moving forward?
Being empathetic and flexible, because things are constantly changing, and just being aware of those surroundings and the people around you.
Yeah, I would totally agree with my colleague. Leadership is situational. And when you have a crisis, you're going through different stages of that crisis. And each stage is going to require a different set of skills. So I think you must be flexible, and you have to be able to make a decision, because sometimes not making a decision is the worst decision we can all make.
Sure.
And because of the uncertainties around a pandemic, it's not like any of us had experience in this, not unless you were around in 1918, which right. I doubt. But I would totally agree with my colleague.
And also, as well as those other qualities, you got to be optimistic of how you respond so it affects everyone else around you. So if you're in a panic mode, you don't panic the whole surrounding. You got to be careful how you respond also in the pandemic. You got to be optimistic and let people know we're going through this, we're going to take some steps, but everything's going to be all right. Because sometimes when you don't do that, people commit suicide and think of all other type of things that can make it. You got to watch how you deliver the messages.
Another question.
I would also add
go ahead.
to that, about communication. I mean, it's just so important that you have clear and concise communication that is often and across all the constituents. So from your board to your faculty, to your students, to your employees, to your community, your alumni, I know we're going to talk about shortly, but being able to keep those lines of communication open, often, and clearly, I think is very important during a crisis.
Sure. Well, when your student body doesn't know what's going on, and when the parents of those students don't know what's going on, and the faculty and the staff are, fishing for information, it just leaves everyone in a state of chaos. And I remember in March, one thing that I will tip my hat off to Prairie View for is the constant state of communication, the constant, maybe even at times the over communication, with the emails. And I guess in a moment like that, there's no such thing as over communicating, because everything was shifting in one moment. Everything was impulsive at times too. It was like, we got to make this decision. Okay, well, in that immediate moment, was that the best decision? One of our questions from one of our viewers asked, what were the challenges of implementing immediate budget reductions? And I'll take that question a step further. I mean, was there a moment of shock or, reaction shock or impulse shock that any of you experienced by making a decisive decision, and maybe discovering maybe over the summer that you'd like to walk that decision back, or, kind of reconsider some of those decisions that were made? What was the price paid for immediate decisions financially?
At Sam Houston, our decision was a lot of people was unsure. They were afraid for their job and the budget reduction cost. But our president deliberately said, we're going to do a 1% reduction across the board. We're not going to touch anyone's salary. We're going to cut out traveling. We're going to cut out food and entertainment. And each department on campus and all colleges. So they went all across the campus. But employees were still a little hesitant and afraid. And some people decided to go ahead and retire who've been there a while. And they wouldn't even asked to do that, but they were just afraid of the outcome of what can happen. Sure. And then we went remotely. We just started working remotely. And people were afraid of that because they're afraid of change. You're afraid of change in this pandemic. You don't know what to expect. But our president, she kept on saying, your job is not in jeopardy. You got to keep you safe. You got to keep the students safe. And she just kept on. Every day we got an email of optimistic, encouraging, and reminding us, stay safe, wear your mask, no traveling, can't spend your money on eating, no P cards. They took the P cards. You took the travel cards, so you wasn't doing any of that.
Sure. You talked about people, retiring who have been with the university for a number of years, or, having to make wide shifts in terms of, course delivery, and the fact that, especially HBCUs. It's been a while since I've been to or worked at PWI, but I know at HBCUs, you have people who have been there because they love that organization. They love that institution. They've been there 40, 50 years, and and then all of a sudden this thing happens where they have to go from teaching face to face to using, an online platform that, they don't use Blackboard, and by choice, they don't use Canvas or e-courses, or, whatever the course management platform is online for them. We saw COVID, there was a major shift in human resources, as Dr. Collins just said. Dr. Michael McFrazier, the Dean of the College of Education at Prairie View, he asked a question that we can then segue towards. Post-COVID, what changes will we see related to human resources? Will HR adopt the business world model of employees having the opportunity to work remotely? So, we're all at home or, hybrid for the most part. I mean, what's the long-term impact of this particular experience, HR wise?
I think we see that it can be done. So I know it just takes looking, especially for us being within the A&M system, Prairie View being within the A&M system, to look at our system policies and drive that down to our university administrative procedures to see where can we create those efficiencies to where it makes sense, because we know we're getting ready to go into a time where, you know, childcare is going to be an issue, because the schools are going to be even, you know, still in their remote learning world. So what can we do to be responsive to that? And it's just, there's some efficiencies that can be realized by people working remotely that I think we need to really carefully explore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, once again, I totally agree with Dr. Carter Horn. HR will have a very, very important role going forward. And we do need to look at the feasibility of how effective and productive we can work remotely. And going back to my initial comments about the business model, we have to figure out how we can have a cost structure that supports the available revenue resources that will be coming into the institution. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a huge opportunity to not only look at some of the models in the business world, but to figure out for our own institutions how we can be efficient and productive working remotely, and hopefully do that in a way that lowers the cost structure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead. Yep.
At Sam Houston, we are reclassing positions like that, because some of the positions in a example, like for admissions, we have admission counselors. We used to go out and recruit at high schools, have career fairs. We reclassify all those positions because now they're no longer going to be going out traveling, and we reclass them as career counselors. Work with these students and help get them jobs. Work with these students to get organizations and companies to come in and recruit our students. So that's what we shifted more towards that, toward them getting jobs when they graduate, instead of going out and recruiting. Because we have a call center now that goes and just call people and just say, hey, are you interested? We send out information to you, we send you a link. So our HR system is just changing, not that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In that same Wall Street Journal report that I saw 3 weeks ago, and it's on YouTube. It was a piece about the dip in enrollment, but what this mean for high school seniors, because because students are learning at home, that can open up some of the numbers of students that different universities are admitting into their schools, because the infrastructure of the university is not as impacted. You don't have as many freshmen coming on campus and living in dorms. They're staying at home. So there's this look, and the spring semester is going to be this look at widening the number of students who can be admitted into a university. And it also then means, if you had the dream of going to an Ivy League school, I guess, that this might be the ideal time to apply for those schools. And same thing, if you had this vision of going to a school out of state, let's say you're in Texas, but you want to go to Morgan State. It seems like this might be an ideal time to look at the schools of choice, because
we like that at Morgan.
Yeah, you like that sound? Okay, you know what? Yes. Never mind. We're gonna keep our students here in Texas. Hey, look, let's talk about the alumni. Let's talk about the power of alumni and what we need to do to get our alum to really bolster support at our various schools. What's your word to our alumni out there during this time, and how they can support our respective universities?
I would say donate, but in order to donate, some type of recognition, because they want to be recognized. And we go Prairie View, They give us a good education. We get out in the world. We make a difference. But we want to give back. But when you give back and it's no notoriety, if you want people to give, put their name on the back of a chair and say, hey, this chair is Dr. McFrazier's chair, or this is Dr. McFrazier Hall, or whatever.
Sure.
When you start doing that, everybody gonna want their name on it. I was previously at a university of Houston, and how we got alumni is we built a new building, and everybody was buying bricks with their name on it, and we had so many people buy bricks. The bricks were $5,000 a piece, and we ran out of bricks. Everybody wanted their name. And we also had like a payment plan, so for staff, we wanted to, payroll deduction, things like that. But if you get that type of thing, and their name is planted right there on campus, where you get a lot more interactions, I believe. Because I'm an alumni. And I know you get a lot. You do that. For me, I believe in creating scholarships, because I do want students to come and Prairie is a great place to go to school. It's just like a family. And that's the difference between a white institution and an HBCU. They treat you like family. They teach you how to walk, talk, dress, act in public. WI don't do that. You're a number, A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the difference. But nobody knows unless you actually go there. And so in order to do that, you got to offer something to get the students in. My idea is create a scholarship. And my best teacher on the campus and my dissertation chair is Dr. Patricia Hawkins. I couldn't have made it without her. She's just like my big sister. She said A, B, C, D. I want to create a scholarship in her name to honor her so she can help other students like she helped me. So that's how you give back.
Sure. Sure. Don't just take the donation. Definitely identify them having given the gift, but it isn't just about recognizing them. It's about honoring them and honoring the gift, because who has money to just give away at this point? Even to your beloved, alma mater. It's we live in a time where every penny counts, and so by recognizing and giving thanks for that donation, our development team at Prairie View are a top-notch group of professionals. Dr. Carter Horn, in what ways can we better utilize that team? I mean, what can we do to entice more? I mean, Dr. Collins is one of our alum. How do we, in addition to, finding some more bricks and some chairs and different things like that, because I'm not even an alum yet. And I want to put my name on something. What more can we do to communicate to our alumni, but also to our respective development teams to close that gap, to bridge that relationship?
Just the constant communications and letting them know what's going on campus and actually pairing them up with the current student. I know that's something that's worked at another institution where I was before. Giving those opportunities for the alumni to actually come in and engage with the current students, or, if you've got a named scholarship and you've got a scholarship reception, if you will, or a luncheon, to be able to let those students write notes to those scholarship, the ones who have established those scholarships, to just let them know, hey, I appreciate you giving to me, and this is the way that you are giving back to me through this major, through this program. It's just the constant communication with the alumni to let them know where we are, what our needs are, and how they can help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I would say the timing could not be better. We need to continue to keep our kids in school. We need monies for scholarships. We need monies for the endowment. The endowment is that long-term, perpetual stream of funds for our kids to go to school. And I think if there's ever a time when we all have alma maters, and if there is ever a time, it is today to start giving back to your institution, finding a scholarship, and even doing a planned gift. Just set some money wade through an insurance policy to continue your own legacy. But we need that support today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are 3 minutes from the top of the hour. And so I am going to bring this conversation to a close for now. We're not gonna stop this conversation. In fact, I heard from a few other VPs of finance and CFOs from different universities who couldn't make it tonight. Had other commitments. This was something of an 11th hour event. So I appreciate you all for joining us tonight. Thank you so much, Dr. Collins, Dr. Carter Hall, Mr. Evans, for joining us tonight. And thank you for the work that you do at your respective universities. In particular, thank you, Carter Horn, for representing PV and doing your work at my school in my backyard. I'm from Virginia originally. I did go to a PWI for undergrad and an MSI for graduate school. There is nothing like the experience I'm having at Prairie View and at an HBCU in general, primarily because my every step is affirmed. And I didn't know that could be possible at a college or university where, I thought my focus was to go to class and learn something. And I have grown 10 feet taller as a result of not only being at PV, but being within a network of universities that have a vested interest in me as a human being. And I appreciate all three of you for the work that you do and the people that you are on this planet. And I'm going to call you back for a return in the spring. We've got so much to do. We've got so much that we can share with our audience and build on it. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Hoffman-Miller, for watching and leading the way with this particular. So this, and just to bring the audience up to speed on what's going on here, this is the 5th and final episode of a new series that I think we're going to kind of keep going in the spring, but it's a result of one of our PhD classes. It's higher education finance, taught by the one and only Dr. Patricia Hoffman-Miller. And she has taught us a lot about higher ed finance, but we wanted to take our final presentations a step further and really engage professionals and communicators and leaders and thinkers and scholars and researchers to help us find some of those answers and grow our minds when it comes to higher ed finance. One day I would love to see myself helming a university as a president, and you three have definitely added to my education as we move towards that goal. You all be safe. Everyone, wear your mask. Love your family, love them hard. You may have to love them from a distance this holiday season, but do what you must to keep yourself safe. And be sure to keep your eyes on social media and all those things for more members of Cohort 13 at Prairie View A&M Universities, Whitlow R. Green College of Education. We are going to change the world. It is our directive, and it is yours as well. All right, take care. Good night.